Hello, hello, and welcome. This is Hakiza. I want to personally thank you for joining us today. We're going to talk about a very interesting topic. What happens after a breakup? Do you block your ex or you still keep in touch with your ex? Today, I'm being joined by a very special guest. She wears a few hats. She is known as a serial entrepreneur, international best-selling author, a fashion icon, and also a singer and a writer. Ger Carriere. Good to see you. You look beautiful as always.
Thank you.
We dated for some time, since last June, and we tried our best, and it didn't work out. What do you think brought us together?
What brought us together?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, are we talking specifics? Because I mean, the way we met was on a dating app, right?
Right.
So I think just kind of going through that process for me was something that was new, and it was something that I wasn't really open to before. And so the process was very weird and awkward just because it was what it was.
Right.
And then just meeting a complete stranger, right? But let's be honest, I live pretty dangerously. And so I think the thing that attracted me to you was the fact that you had style and sort of an elegance to you. That's what made me, be open to meeting with you.
Well, interesting. I didn't really think that it takes steps to actually get to know someone offline, because it's very interesting now that even with whatever it is that is going on, getting to know the person behind the screen. And also it is also a different setting when you meet in person. So it was just a very interesting for me to actually get your attention. It was very challenging because talking to someone on screen, it's you can do it whatever. But again, having that person to meet in person, it is totally different game. So in your opinion, what do you think, or what steps or approach I took that made you feel comfortable with me?
Right. So I feel like, and again, this is, it was a while ago. I feel like I prompted you in saying that, I only deal with action takers and people that, make plans.
Right.
And so I remember your correspondence from that moment on was very like, due diligence, this is the plan, I'm picking you up this time, be ready, and that was that, right? So I was like, oh, look at this guy, right? It was a different way, and it was kind of like, the professional setting that I was used to. So for me, it was very easy just to say yes, right?
Right.
And then of course, the actual meeting, I feel like there were a couple hiccups.
Yeah. Yep.
And again, I am very like understanding and like whatever it was. So, but the thing was, any little thing that happens, it's like, no, he loses 10 points. No, he loses 10 points, right? So, yeah. But again, I was like, okay, this guy seems, whatever. And so I kind of overlooked those things and just was like, all right, let's just do this. So.
Interesting. So do you think I lost many points over that dinner?
The dinner?
Yeah.
The dinner was, it was interesting because, I mean, again, a lot of this, it's such, like it's a video game, right?
Right.
You go into these things, and for me, going into it was just all fun and games. It's not really serious until the point where I met you. That was when I was like, okay, so it's like you're a girl walking out of the house and you see this dude and he like walks out and he, it's like the movies, right?
Yeah.
But then when we were sitting at dinner, that's kind of when I really started to, take a liking and really sit and be present and listening to your stories and, where you were coming from. But I know who I am, and I'm very like loud and bold, and I just do things strategically to see what kind of reaction you'll get out of me, or I'll get out of you, I should say. So I feel like that situation was no different than I would normally be with somebody. And you held your ground a lot in the conversation, and you were, again, because I'm very bold and loud and crazy, and people tend to get intimidated and they kind of like withdraw. You didn't do that. So for me, it was, you had, like I said, that poise, that elegance, that I look two people to have on their own. And that really helped me to just calm and just feel a little more trusting in the situation.
Interesting. It's something I never thought of, actually, to have that response. And if we didn't really, if we didn't really keep that communication going on, if we to be honest with one another, I don't think I would ever get to hear that. I would probably think of something else, but the way you've put it, there was, I never approached it like that. So during that course, what do you think went terribly wrong?
Honestly, like I don't, like with the initial date itself, or like the union?
The union, like as a whole, from the beginning, and then
I'm like, you going there right now? Okay, for me, from my perspective, and this is interesting because I mean, we had spent, about 2 months just getting to know each other before we even decided to be in a committed relationship, because I said, like, unless you come to the table and you lay it down and be like, this is what I want, this is what,
right.
Are we gonna do this, right? So it wasn't until about 2 months into the union that we actually decided, okay, let's be committed to each other, right?
Yep.
So once that happened, like honestly, I don't know what happened. It was just that I went to the nude goddess retreat because I'm pretty
right.
witchy. And so when I went to that, it was like, honestly, I felt really weird going into that space. And then, because again, I'm like witchy and I want to know things. And I didn't ask about you specifically in that
right.
situation,
right.
but things came out and revealed themselves that you and I were twin flames, and that we were here to, help each other to evolve to us becoming who we were intended to be. And that, when I came home, I expressed this to you, and I was just full of like gratitude and love and the whole thing. But when I came to you with that, it was just you kind of took it upon yourself to be like, well, where does that put me? And how it was, you weren't with me anymore at that point, because I remember that weekend I had a girlfriend come in from out of town, and so it was like up until that point we spent almost every single day together. And then when I went away for that weekend, I remember texting you and being like, hey, are you okay? And you were like, yeah, everything's cool. But I felt a distance. So it wasn't only like the physical distance, it felt like the spiritual, like the connection that we had
within you.
Yeah, like I felt something was wrong. So something changed within that time of us being apart. But when I came back into the union, I was like, this is what happened. And, and it already felt like you had gone. So for me, I was just kind of like, it was hard for me because I invested all that time, and it was like, I was just getting to a place of actually feeling comfortable and being vulnerable to really show up as my authentic self. And it felt like you just ripped the rug under me and was just like, there you go, fend for yourself. So it was very like disheartening. I was really hurt by it because I didn't understand what was happening. And it just felt like the person that I am and the person that I was with you, they couldn't be together. Like it was just really weird. And I was just like, what happened, right? So I know that for a little while you and I tried to, figure it out. And I know for myself coming into it, I was like, what do I need to do? Like, what's happening here? Like, I know that I, for the first time, really put myself out and tried to understand how can I fix this, right? That was probably the first time I really started to show up in the relationship. And it was like with you, it was just a wall, and there was like a shield. There was like, there was nothing I could do to penetrate through that. Yeah, so.
Interesting. I don't know. I have no comeback to that. I don't know, but I think it was a very interesting experience specifically for that weekend. It was something I did not really expect, but again, I found myself into it, and probably the way I approached it, looking back, I don't think it's really probably the best way I could have done it. So in your opinion, like from all this, when we started, what looking back, what do you think you could have done different?
Well, it's interesting because I'm witchy, right? And so when I say that, what I mean is that I know things. They call it like clairvoyance or like an intuition. It's kind of like a psychic. And so these are things that not a lot of people know about me, but I kind of like keep it to myself. And so again, I was introducing you to these different concepts and these different worldviews and different ways of thinking. So for you, I mean, I always think like, how do people perceive me, right? Because it's like, she's a lot, but then she also has that, right? So I think that for you came, with your backpack and I had my backpack, and it was just like, let's unload our backpacks together. And I feel like it was all fun and games until it kind of got like dangerous, or it was like for you took it personally, and you found something that maybe you couldn't really relate to, or you didn't want to anymore. And that was like, it was a deal breaker for you, right? So that whole situation really brought out and tested a side of yourself that maybe you didn't want to engage in, and it didn't feel safe for you. But you also didn't make me understand why it was happening, right? Like I felt very left outside. And I think that was the piece that hurt me the most, was because you had done all this like, I love you, I want to be with you, it's safe, it's good. And then you, like I said, it was just like, bye, right? So it was just really confusing, because I was like, and that was the part that pissed me off the most, was because when we met, I was like, I don't want a boyfriend. I want to relate, none of that stuff, right? And you were like, nah, let's do this. And, and it took me that long to even get to that place where I was like, okay, this is cool. Maybe I can do that, and then it just made me feel like I felt really let down, because I trusted you and I let my guard down. And that was the piece that really hurt, because it was like, but you said I could trust you, and that's an area for me that I don't go with a lot of people, right? So it was just like, just a slap in the face, and it was like, yeah, deal with it type thing. But getting back to your question, so I know that like we went to the flea market a couple times, and you had an experience even in your elevator, and I told you that going into this union you may experience things that aren't explainable, and it's because of who I am and what I go through. So I feel like not only did we have to deal with our own personalities, our attachments, our love languages, like all of the different things, but we also had to deal with this other side of things that people don't really have to go through. And that is something that just comes along with me. So I feel like that kind of scared you away, if you will.
So you think you could have done something differently?
Honestly, I don't, because I showed up as authentically as I could have. Do I feel like I could have communicated better? I feel like I could have, been more like conflict resolution and really understanding, and maybe understanding how it is that you needed to be cared for. Because I feel like I'm and can be very selfish and very one-sided. But in saying that, I feel like that was also, something where you failed in really teaching me how to love you and teaching me how to be there for you in that way, right?
Thanks for making the time. You're a busy man, so thanks for coming through.
Salut les amis, hello friends, this is Hakiza Frank. I'm going to be frank with you. Subscribe below for more videos. Thank you for the courtesy of your time. Merci beaucoup et à la prochaine.